Hello friends, welcome to Technical Points. In this video, we are going to learn about one of the most important and interesting topic in Android Jetpack, that is Work Manager. So Work Manager is a library which helps us to perform some background tasks even when the application is not running. So these examples might include taking the backup of data to the server, or taking the backup of user data locally, or logging some things to the local file. All these things are background tasks, and that needs not to be done at the same time when the user is using the app. This can be scheduled at the regular intervals, but this should be guaranteed to be executed. So all these features have been provided to us by the Work Manager library. Now there are other components that do the same work as Work Manager, like a job scheduler or alarm manager. These components can be used to do the same task. But Work Manager is the easiest, simplest, and most recommended way to perform the background task in an Android, and it provides the various advantages. So first one is a easy implementation. We can just define our code, define our task, and the task we just have to enqueue to the work manager, and work manager will take care of repeating the task in the specific period of interval of time as we have given to the in the request. Other one, it is fully backward compatible. So you don't have to write the conditions like if the Android version is like less than this or greater than this, then do this as a code. No, these confusions. We can directly just write our code, and the work manager library will it handle it for us. It will run the same way on all the versions of Android. So that is one of the most important advantage. And the third one is we can provide the constraints to the work. Let's say we want to upload the data to the server for whatever the user has done the data manipulation in our app. So we have to take the daily backup of the data to our local server, to our remote server. But this task is not necessarily to be done when the user is using the app. So we can just schedule that, make the task and schedule it to the work manager, hand over it to it, and work manager will take care of the task. It will guarantee to be executed. This is one of the point that work manager guarantees that your task will be executed, and it will choose an optimum way to perform our task so that the user's battery will be saved and our task will also be executed. So I think this is enough for the theoretical part. Now let's move towards practical implementation and see how work manager can help us. Now here I am in the empty project, and I have just done one thing. Instead of this hello world, I have just inserted a button here with star quote as a text. So on clicking on this button, we will be going to start the work. And here in the main activity, there is nothing, it is just now blank. The first thing we have to do is to add the dependencies. So let's open our build.gradle. I have already added the dependencies. This is the work manager version, that is 2.9.0. It is the latest version at the recording of this video, and this is the dependency. So you can get this dependency from the Android official docs. Here you can find the dependency of different versions. In the Groovy, you can find the version, and here I am using this Kotlin plus coroutines version, this one. So let us start. The first thing we have to do is, we have already added the dependencies. Next thing we are doing, that we need to make a separate class which will contain our work. That class is called as worker class, and we'll be extending the class from the worker class which we are getting from the work manager library. Let's right click new Kotlin class file, and I'll name it as my worker, and this will be extended from worker. We are getting the it from androidx.work. I'm hitting enter, and this parameter takes this worker class takes two as a parameters. One is context, and second one is work parameters, worker parameters. So I'll just define those parameters here. One is a context, another one is a params, worker parameters. Let's input this class, and let's add it to this context params. Okay, now it is showing an error because we need to implement one function of this abstract class, that is do work. implement members to work. So this is the overridden function we have to override, and this is the place where we will be writing our code which we want to execute as, and I mean which we want to give the task to the work manager library. So in this tutorial, for the understanding purpose, I am just using one log statement here so that we will be able to see the task is executed. So I'll write here check work manager, and here we will write work perform. So this is basically a task which we will be going to do and which we will be offloading to the work manager library. We can write any complex task here, like uploading the data to the server. We can use coroutines inside this function, and we can just do our whatever the stuff we want to do in the work as a part of work manager. So that is fine, but there is one error here. The error is because this function returns a result. So result class has different three to four different things. Let me show that. Return result dot, we can get that result dot success, result dot retire, result dot failure. All these things we are getting. So we have to return either one of the type from this function. So for now, I can return here result dot success. So the error has been gone. But you can actually check if let's say you are uploading some data to server. Let's say your task has been failed. So you can here conditionally return the result whatever your task is failed or successful. If your task is failed, you can here return result dot failure, or if your task is successful, you can return from here result dot success. Now this function is built. So we are coming in main activity, so that we have to create a request here. So there are two types of requests we can make. One is one time request, and another one is periodic work request. So I will be using periodic work request, but I'll also show you the syntax of one time request. It will be same, just a difference that the request will only be served, that is task will only be executed only at once. And if in case of periodic work request, we have to give the specific time interval so that the work will keep repeating itself. Here in the main activity, we will be creating one variable val work request. Let's say we'll create a separate function for this. Initialize worker, and I'll create a separate function for this. Here I'll create val work request. So in case of one time work request, we can see here that one time work request we are getting this from androidx.work. So I click one time work request dot builder. We have to build this object, one time work request dot builder, and in this it is expecting a class in which we have defined our work. So that class is our my worker class which we have just created. In this we have written this is our work which we want to perform, and we'll pass this class here, my worker class dot java, and that's it. We can just call build on this, and our object is ready. Now in order to execute this object, now we are going to call the work manager. Let's import this class dot get instance. We have to provide a context here, so I'll pass this, and dot enqueue. Here is a function to enqueue our work. Whatever the work request we have created here, we can just enqueue that request. Work request. Okay, that's it. The work manager is done. Yeah, it's simple. It's very simple. I already told. No need of any complex logic here. The work manager is very simple. The one thing I want to modify here is we have here return one time worker request. So one time worker request is just a thing, there's a thing that it will use a work manager, but the task will only be executed at once. But we are interested in repeating the work in specific period of time. So let's change this one. We can call here periodic work request dot builder. This is also a builder pattern, and it is also asking for the class my worker colon class dot java, and it is asking some more details now. So as it is a periodic work request, so request is going to execute again and again, repeating itself. So it of course requires some parameters for that. Repeat interval, how long it should repeat. So I'll just uh, put 30, and here time unit it require. So I'll write time unit dot minutes. So this task will be executed after every 30 minutes. Yeah, we can just call on build, and our object is built. Let me format it. Yeah, that's it. But you have to remember one thing. If you write here only 3, then it will show in error. Why? Because syntactically it is correct. But if you hover here, it will show that interval duration for periodic work request must be at least 15 minutes. So, in order to use the periodic work request, we should give at least 15 minutes of a time interval to repeat the task. That is the constraint provided by work manager. So, we'll pass 15 here, and the error will go away. It will not also accept the 14. It will show again error. It needs minimum 15, and that's it. Our work will get executed without any issues. It will repeat it after 15 times itself. It will keep repeating, and it what it will work. It will work. It will do whatever task we have mentioned here. So here we are just logging the statement. So it will log the statement. Any complex functionality you can uh, implement here, and the work manager library will continue to repeat that, to continue to execute that functionality. So let's say you have an application which you have to uh, back up your local data to the remote server. So you can just implement like this, and you can have to just make some changes, like let's say you have to make the backup of your data on the daily intervals. So you can just write one here, repeat interval 1, and you can just time minute dot day days. So the work manager library will now know that you want to execute this task at once in every day. So it will continue to execute on a daily basis. But your work is dependent on something. Your work is dependent on internet connection. If internet connection is not there, your work can't be done, because you have to upload the data. So you need internet connectivity for that. So how the work manager library should know that my work requires active internet connection, and if the device has internet connection, then only execute this task. Only that time you should execute this task. For that, we have given a concept of constraints in work manager. So for adding the constraints, we need to do well constraints equal to constraints. We are getting it from androidx.work dot builder. This is also a builder pattern. All the classes have nearly same pattern. So we are using an empty constructor builder dot set require network type. So you can just set this constraint. These are different constraints: require network type, require charging, require battery not low. So all these are constraints that we can apply to our work, so that work manager library will only execute this task when all of these constraints are met. So we will be choosing this one, set required network type, and here we can provide network type dot connected, not connected, meter, not roaming. We also had different choices on this network type as well. So we will be choosing network type dot connected, so that internet should be connected for this task to execute. So work manager library will take care of this now. We can change the different concepts one after the another, like set requires charging. So if our device should be at the charging, so we can put this constraint, or if the uh, rather constraint is a set requires battery not low. Let's say we have to operate our data, so that data will be huge, and if that operation is interrupted, then the data might get corrupt. Then we can set this type of constraint, so that it will be no chances that device will shut down while our work is getting executed. So we can just click on this, set requires battery not low to true. So when the battery is not low, then only work manager will execute our task. And finally, we can just click on build to build these things. Currently, we're using only one constraint here. So now we have constraint, and in order to add this constraint to our work request, we just have to set it dot set constraints, and we can just pass these constraints here, and that is done. This is also very simple. Adding the constraint is very simple. So let's now try executing and see how the work manager works. Okay, one thing I forgot to do, that is we have to perform the work on the click of this button. So let me give the id work button, and on click of this button, point view by id, that will be button dot id dot work button dot set on click listener. Inside this I'll be implementing this work. Now we can try running our application. Now our application is now running, and let me open the logcat. I have already put this tag check work manager here, so that whenever this work it gets triggered, so we'll be able to see the log statement here and can confirm that work has been executed. So the interval is repeat after 15 minutes. So I'll just click on this button so that the work will be started, and as soon as we press the button, first time the work is performed, first time the work will get executed, and this work now repeat itself after every 15 minutes. One more thing I would like to show you here is that in the app inspection tab we can click, and here we can debug our application. Generally we see the database related things in this database inspector, and this time we'll be going to background task inspector. So just click on this one, and you can see my worker has been enqueued. Let me examine this. My worker has been enqueued, and it will start at 7:59. It has already been started at 7:59, and it is enqueued to be repeatedly executed. So it will continue to execute after 15 minutes. So you can see here scheduled work in this background task inspector. Now, if you look at this logcat now, we are able to see the three entries. The first one we have already seen when we have clicked the button, then the first entry has been locked, and it was at 9:59, that is 7:59 p.m. The another entry, it has been automatically repeated the work even if the app was closed. So the another entry was at 20:14, that is 8:14 p.m. exactly after 15 minutes. And now this third entry we are also able to see, that is work is repeated again third time. But there is a huge time difference here, because 21:27, that is 9:27 p.m. Actually, while recording this tutorial, for the, while once I started this tutorial, once I started this application, and I left the PC as it is, as it was, and it started executing the repeating the task itself after 15 minutes. But after this 8:14 p.m., somewhere in the middle, my electricity was gone, and my internet connection of this emulator of this phone has been lost. So internet connectivity is lost. Thus, the task has not been executed because we have added the constraint that set required network type equal to network type dot connected. So for this task to execute, the work manager knows that this task requires internet connection. So this task will not be executed when there is no connectivity. And now when I resume this tutorial after coming back the electricity, then this work has been automatically triggered, and now at this time 9:27 p.m. this work has been executed. So because the connectivity was restored, and the work manager again started repeating the work itself. So this is the advantage of work manager. We can add the constraints to it, and it will act according to the we defined constraints. That's it for work manager tutorial. This is a typical implementation of Work Manager. But as you are already on my channel and are been watching the video at this time, so I would like to give you with the bonus with some extra information. So there is one mechanism to send or receive data in the Work Manager. Input and output data we can say for that. So while executing some task here in the do work, we can actually get some input data, and we can pass that data from here from worker request. So let's see how we can achieve that. For that, we need to use data object, which we can get from the WorkManager library. So let's say val data or input data equal to data, and make sure that we are importing the class from android.work. So just click on that data. Now this also comes under builder pattern dot builder, and in this we can now set a data. We can just put a dot, and here we can get all the methods, all the put methods here. So we can put any type of data, like here is a put string value pair, and we put all, put boolean, put byte, put double, float, int, long, string. So we, let's say we'll be putting some string value here. So let's say here is a input key, and this is input data, and we just need to call dot build. Yes, now this is our input data, and to in order to send this data to the worker, we can just add a method here dot set input data. You can just click on this, and we can pass this input data which we have created here. So this data will be sent to the worker while working, executing the background task. So how to get the data? This data we can get here in the my worker class inside this do work. Inside the do work, we have one method named, we can access the data using val input data equal to data input, get input data. We have method get input data dot get string, and we can use the same string which we have mentioned here, that is input key, and we will get the input data here. Here is, we can also use a property access syntax, that is input data. So that is it, input data we can get it here. Now how to validate that we have got the same input data? For that, let me alter this sequence, and here we'll write work perform input data equal to, here we'll append input data whatever we have received here. Okay, now let's try running again our application. Let me clear the rocket again and I'll again run our application and see if we get the same data. We should be able to see the input data and click here on the button. Here we are seeing that work performed input data equals input data, and this input data is a string that we have passed from here. But let's make it as input data from main activity, so it will be more clear for us to understand. Okay, I'll run the application again, clear the locket, and let's click on this. And yes, we are now seeing here input data from main activity. So yes, we are getting the data which we have passed from this main activity class. And just like we have set the input data, we can also set the output data which will be returned after the work we have finished. So we will set here the output data and we can access it in our main activity. So let's see how we can do that. Here again we'll create another data object, data equal to data dot builder dot put string. Again I'll put a string here as a output key, and data, let's say output data from worker. Okay, or data is set, and now we'll set this data to the in the success data, so that this will be output data. Now in order to access it here in the main activity, what we need to do is we need to repeat this thing, work manager dot get instance, and we'll pass the context this, and dot, there is one method that is get work info by id live data. So we'll get the work info in the live data as a live data object, so that we can observe it and we can get the real time update about the work progress. So we'll be getting this, so just click on this, get work info by id live data, and it requires id of our work request. So we can get the id with work request dot id. Yeah, we get the id and we'll observe this dot observe. Life cycle owner will be this, so I'll pass this here, this at main activity, and another one is observer. Yes, we are inside the observer. So what we can do here is we want to access the output data, so we can access it here, like here it we are getting the scope variable as it, so we can just write it dot output data. You can see here we are getting the output data. We want to just display that output data when the work finishes. So when the work finishes, we want to display the data. So for that, we'll check if it dot state. It means here it is work info. So work info dot state dot is finished. So if the work is finished, then we will get, then the output data is generated and then we will get the data. So that's why we are putting it in the if condition, and under this if condition we will be writing log statement. So log will be, I'll put the same check work manager as a tag, and I'll paste the output data in the message output data, and we'll append the data here. It dot output data. That's it. So let's try running our app and see if it happens. Let me clear all the work, clear, and relaunch the application. Application has been started. I opened the locker and I clicked on the button. But here, as we can see, there is only input data printed. The work is already finished, but we didn't receive the output data. We did not receive this log statement. It's fine because this is a recurring periodic work request. So as this is periodic work request assumptively actually never gets ended. It keeps on repeating. That's why it when it finishes, it automatically gets rescheduled. So there is no state like it has been stopped, it has been completed. So that's why periodic work request will not get up to this point, and thus this code will not be executed. To see this execution, we need to create one single word request, one time word request. So let us create that. I'll copy the same request here. Periodic word request needs to name one time word request, and we don't need these two parameters. I'll rename this as one time word request. Okay, and I'll enqueue this request and as well use the ID of this request. Okay, our work manager is now executing a single one time word request. So let me stop the application, uninstall the first one, and reinstall this new one. And let me clear the locket as well. And here now I'll click on this button. Now we are able to see that this is the input data in from main activity, and this is the output data from worker, which we have written here, output data from worker. And here is our, we are getting that from this get string output key, and we are getting this data output data from worker. So this is basically these are some basic differences between single thread sorry word one time word request and periodic word request. That is all about work manager in Android. I hope that is clear to you. I have tried my best to explain. Still, if you have some doubts, you can put your questions in the comment box below. I'll try my best to answer those. Now try this work manager in your one of your Android application and let me know how it works. Again, if you like this video, then please click on like, share with your friends, and subscribe to this channel if you have not already, so that you can stay informed about the latest and interesting topics about Android and the easiest ways to implement those. We'll meet in the next tutorial with some another great topic. Till then, goodbye, happy coding.